nobody had actually won Partner of the Year twice in a row before we won it twice in a row.
Yeah.
And we've won it every year since, 6 times. Yeah, including this past year. I would say it's it means a lot from a brand standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, customers know this is trusted. It's also not a just like political award. It's actually a member voted award. And so for that reason, I think we have a good chance to keep it going. But yeah, it means a lot. It's credible to our audience.
So you guys have done some really cool work at your event to engage your customer, right? Which I think is a big piece that goes on, right? Like when you're exhibiting, when you're hosting events, when you're spending all this time, energy, and money to be there, you have to engage your customer. You have to meaningfully engage your customer. And I think that's something from just our conversations, hearing you on other podcasts and listening to you, that's something that you guys have done really well, right? So what's like one really great way that you feel like you guys have done that?
Yeah. So I would say like maybe going back to early days and where we started with this was where it started was we said a lot of people show up to an event and they are very much kind of following the organizer's flow.
Yeah.
Here's the sponsorship that's available. Here are the opportunities that are available. Let me pick from this menu. Let me show up, right? And see if I can make the most of that.
Yeah.
And something we decided to do was say, how can we break the frame, of the event and approach this differently and think about just what are our goals for this and how might we think outside the box to achieve those goals. And so something we did, that first year that had a lot of success was we said, hey, these are really busy people, hard to get time with. So what if we thought about the week as opposed to, sponsorship opportunities and show up at the trade show floor, creating a VIP experience.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to these guys over here, and there's some history in the property management industry. Rental property managers, it's a thankless job. Like, how many of you have rented before? Just like, okay, yeah. How many of you like loved your property manager and like sent them flowers and and maybe they didn't earn that, by the way, but just say it's typically an underappreciated job. Like they're getting calls when something's leaking or on fire or the rent's not there on time or whatever it might be. They're dealing with problems, constantly firefighting. And since they're kind of underappreciated and underrespected from their point of view, treating them like true VIPs hits this it does something very significant, right, for them. So at the airport, we're showing up and we own the color purple in our industry. It's like a sea of blue out there. And then we're this like big purple dot kind of.
Everybody's in navy suits.
Yeah. And so I'm not wearing my purple jacket today. I finally get to wear the rest of my wardrobe out.
There you go.
But we picked them up from the airport. So they arrive. We got people in purple at the airport holding up signs. VIPs make their way this way. And then we've got our AEs, our salespeople, in black SUVs. And then we usually get 1 or 2 exotic cars. So we'll rent like a Ferrari for $700 for the day. And we'll pull up and pick them up. And we're handling their luggage. And then they get 20, 30 minutes, right, of one-on-one time with them arriving to the hotel, right, to the venue. And so we're that first impression, right, when they're showing up. It's quite one-to-one. When those AEs are seeing them throughout the event for the rest of the week, it's like, oh, I know this person, and like they're waving to it, right? It's a different interaction throughout the week. And then right there at the VIP check-in, we're hitting them with like, here's champagne splits and everything else, getting them set up for the week. We're doing things throughout the week, like special room drops. We got, what do we think, 350 people kind of enrolled. And every year we've increased the number of enrollees in the VIP experience. This past year we had over 450. But I'm thinking a couple years ago we had 300 and we got cookies made, not with Second Nature's logo all over them, but we had 300 individual logos. These were like hand-piped, pieces.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just ended up all over social, everything like that. And so we're doing all these things every single day. And we talked to our team about what's not the least we can do, what's the most we can do. And thinking about events from that perspective to really get people's attention and earn that engagement in a way that builds trust and builds a relationship with them.
I like that kind of hits on the topic of saying like going big in areas where others are not. That's something I've heard you say before, right? I think when it comes to business and it comes to events, I think it's an interesting thing because when you go to an event, you are trying to stand out, right? Yep. You and I were talking earlier about trade shows. It's a sea of parity.
Yep.
So how do you stand out? Talk a little bit about like that idea, that concept of saying, I'm going to go big in areas where others are not.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I like going big in areas others are not going at all. And in
What's an example? Like, give me an example of that. Like where you're looking compared to your competitors. Say, hey, we're all going to go to this show, or I'm going to do this because they are absolutely not doing it, and I know it's going to stand out.
yeah. So like picking people up from the airport's an
Yeah, that's
example of
another
that.
one. In a Ferrari.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, but a good example of, so, and it's just so people can kind of understand Second Nature's context here. There are players in our space who are multi-billion-dollar companies. Like we are not the largest company in our space, but it very much feels that way to people when we're showing up. And there's typically a night of the conviction, Thursday night, where all of these billion-dollar players, like they're all competing with each other and just beating the hell out of each other to throw the biggest party.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're spending massive budget and everything else. And we saw like, wait, Wednesday night, the night before, after the trade show ends, nobody's doing anything there after 8 p.m. And so like, we're like, wow, we don't even have to pay for food. And like, we can just throw this great party for probably a third of the budget. And we got 5 times the number of attendees. And it was the talk, of the event. And so like, we look for opportunities like that I wouldn't say we did anything terribly creative with our party itself. It was more of a timing and opportunistic thing there, but other things that we're doing throughout the event. I hate the idea that, hey, I'm going to spend 10% more on my fidget spinners, or tchotchkes.
Yeah, of course.
That's going to be effective. And so what we were doing is, hey, deep relationships and VIP relationships, as opposed to spending, something on a swagger giveaway, we would go like 100x on that. And we would say, actually, for a budget of $100 or $200 per person, and I get people may have different customers and business models here, but for us and for our industry, that was like, a big move of here's something totally personalized and a signed jersey from their favorite player waiting, in a rim drop for them when they got back to their room. Things like that were areas where we went big.
I think it's funny. That's kind of like, we were talking earlier, we were saying it's kind of this idea of like guerrilla marketing, right? Events to me are always like a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of work, right? So anybody that's ever managed events, that's a thing. It's like, it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of output just to going into this one thing. So I'm a firm believer of like, you got to go squeeze the fruit to get the juice, and guerrilla marketing and the idea of being creative, finding the gap, finding an opening, doing something unique and different. And that to me is really just more of a mindset. It seems like that you've had with your company and things that you all have done that has gotten you partner of the year and given you success.